Hello, hello, hello. So I will be reviewing this viral video here, and I have a anecdotic tale to tell you why this is not okay.
Stir the pot a little, shall we? Last, let's go ahead and stir the pot a little, shall we?
And just stir in the pot, so you know that this will be controversial and wrong in some sort of way. Why even post it?
Last Friday, 10 minutes before dismissal time, I decided to live stream my students helping me take my hair out. There was quite the discourse in the chat.
First of all, live streaming your students, not blurring out their names, not concealing their identities for the internet to see is a no-no. Like, you know that that's not right. As an adult, you know that's not right. You're not supposed to be recording children, period, without their parents' permission. Like, I don't care how cool of a teacher you are, like, you're not getting the parents' permission to be recording them and putting them on the internet.
Which had people saying this was inappropriate and other people saying this was completely fine. There was nothing wrong with what I was doing, and people were just making it weird. So, of course, I had to bring this issue to the big stage. I would like to represent myself in this case, Your Honor, if I may. Number one, for a little context, I had a hair appointment immediately after school, and I needed my hair taken out beforehand.
And I will stop it right there, just because we need to get to the nitty-gritty. He's giving us this excuse, this background. Oh, I had a hair appointment after school, and we were done with our work, so I just thought it was okay to let them take my hair out. I personally had one of these cool teachers. Of course, everyone has that cool teacher that, oh, you're always in their room. You're like, okay, like Mr. Such and Such or Miss Such and Such. They're such a cool teacher, right? And you know, like those TikTok videos where certain teachers will favor the opposite sex of like their students. Like, let's say it's like an English, like a woman English teacher. She's like, oh, the football players, we love them, and she gives them favoritism. And then with a male teacher, it's the same thing, right? I personally had an art teacher, right? And he was that was the cool teacher. Everybody wanted to be in his room. Everyone was like, "Oh, Mr. Such and Such is so cool." And my young brain was like, okay, yeah, he cool. Like, I liked him personally, but there was a few students that was just a little too close to him, and they were always coming into his room, and there I just sensed that there was no boundaries with this teacher. And of course I was like, oh yeah, this person's like super cool. I never like saw anything wrong with it until there was something wrong with it. Come to find out later that the man was like arrested for literally being a predator. And he didn't give off predator vibes at all. Like, he seemed like a really genuine person who was there to teach and mentor, but there were some things that were out of the realm of what a student and a teacher should be doing, So them skipping class and hanging out by your desk and being like so close to you all the time, like why aren't they at their desk? Like, why isn't there being learning like happening? It just seemed like you want to hang out and chill with minors. And it's really sad because that was like he was one of my favorite teachers, but I'm like, I could have easily fell prey to this teacher because they were like, oh, just try like make you feel special and stuff like that. And I mean, I knew that okay, there's certain things like you don't do with like a teacher, I kind of like kept my distance in a way. I was like, yeah, that's like a good teacher of mine, but I was like, okay, I'm not gonna be all up on his desk and sit on his desk and all that. Like, no. And I remember like a close friend of mine, a close friend of mine was like, oh yeah, we're just texting. I'm like, texting? I'm like, why are you texting a teacher? Like, that's just not like I get he's cool. And mind you, he was like in my eyes, like at the time, one of the coolest people, like super talented, very good instructor, very funny, loved him down. But I was like, I think that's where things kind of took a turn for me. I was like, oh, you guys are texting. What are y'all texting about? And I was like, oh, nothing. And then I just kept hearing more and more stories about like inappropriate behavior. And I remember I was in the car, I was like Ubering somewhere, and I'm listening to the Uber driver had the radio like on like a low setting, and then I hear the teacher name, and I was like, wait, turn that up really quick. So they turn it up, and like they're literally talking about it on the news. Like this is like a crazy story that's like in all the newspaper that this teacher was arrested and fired because he was in fact having relations with the students, and people came forward later on. So I wouldn't be surprised if later on these students was like, oh yeah, there was some inappropriate stuff going on, because as a child you don't really know, you thinking a lot of stuff is like innocent. Oh, we just taking out his hair, that's no big deal, right? But it starts out with, okay, you taking out his hair, then he like, oh, let me drive you home from school. You should not be doing that. And like it is scary that he did not see a problem with that, and some people don't see no problem with that. I'm not even that old, and I would never allow that. If I had a child and they came home was like, oh yeah, Mr. Nelson, he dropped me off at home, Mr. Nelson would be fired the next day. I swear on everything, because there's no way you, oh, I'm just dropping them home. Unless like you have a a strong relationship with like the teacher, and you, even then you never know people's intentions. And i'm I just don't trust this guy. I'm not gonna say he's a bad person because I don't know him personally, but these qualities, trying to be like the cool teacher, of course you can be a cool teacher, but you need to have boundaries, because if you don't have boundaries and you got students like in your personal space, it's a slippery slope for you to have certain desires about children, like, and that's a no-go. That's something you should never do. And I want to continue the rest of the video to kind of poke at what else is wrong with this situation, because it's just wrong. And he's like, oh well, I'm just going to start a pot, but you, sorry, you're a grown adult and you know that this is wrong.
Camera crew coming in to shoot a promotional video, and I was one of the ones being interviewed. So I had to look presentable, so I didn't take my hair out. I didn't have the time to do it all myself because it would have taken me forever. So naturally, I asked about 4 or 5 of my over 100 best friends to assist me in taking my hair out.
See, he talking about best friends. These are your students. These are, if this is like a boss employee, these are your subordinates. These are not your friends. These are not your besties. A grown man who's like, this underage person is my friend is not to be trusted.
They all agreed. Number two, this was at the end of class. The
I don't
teacher
care
was
if it was
doing
at the
STEM
middle,
field
beginning.
presentations. Since it was Friday and all of my students did an excellent job on their STEM field projects and presentations, I told them if we get one solid presentation in this class, I'll end class a little early and they can have fun and play basketball, darts, or be on their phones or whatever. And
This,
during
this
that
is
time, the
inappropriate.
teacher
This
was
should not be
assisting
done.
me. A couple of these were students from my class, but others were students from other classes.
I told you. I told you, because there's no reason that like they should be leaving their class, be like, oh, I want to go to, I forget, I don't know his name, Mr. Such and Such's class because he's cool and I want to hang out there, right? And maybe if you as an adult have the boundaries, you don't know what these kids are saying, because I know as a kid when you have a crush on a teacher, you be like, oh yeah, I want to go to such and such's room or whatever. And the teacher may have the boundaries, but the students are like, no, and they're seeing this as a romantic thing.
I would all of them a pass at the beginning.
And hair is just like, it's a very like intimate thing, to be playing around in. Like playing in somebody's hair is very intimate. So no, I can no.
Beginning of the class period, requesting their assistance.
Like I was gonna say, I can see if they were doing other things, like maybe helping him, I don't know, build something like that. That's like a cooperative thing, and he's a science teacher. Okay, they're like, oh, I need to build this thing for my house. Can y'all help me build this? And we're gonna see about science. Da, da, da. This has nothing to do with nothing about school.
It's 10 minutes before dismissal. I told the teachers only send them if all of their work was completed and they had good behavior. They all met the criteria, so 10 minutes before dismissal, they showed up for their job. My next point I like to make is if I was a female teacher, those people wouldn't be in the comments saying, "Oh, this."
And if you were a female teacher, none of this would have happened because of like, and him saying female is crazy. If this was a woman having her other like same sex like girl students taking out her braids, first of all, it's different because these are people of the opposite sex. Like if there was boys taking out your hair or something, even then it's still inappropriate. But like as a woman, you was like, oh my, these are my like good students and they're taking out my hair. Okay, of course that wouldn't be a problem. But like there's still boundaries and there's not that line that can be blurred. It's just someone taking it's just taking out hair. But this can be seen as very intimate.
This is weird. This is inappropriate. Because me personally, I don't think there's anything weird about this. People are saying, "Oh, that's too intimate." To me,
It is
it's
very intimate.
literally just hair. It doesn't have to be weird. Some people have never had cool teachers, and it shows. I personally believe that building authentic relationships with students is paramount in being an effective teacher. I make sure my students know and can feel that I care about them beyond the schoolwork and all the stuff that I
And
have
you
to
care
make
about
them
them in
do.
a weird way.
I take the time to get to know my students outside of academics
Yeah,
because
you
it's more
shouldn't.
important.
It's your job to be a teacher and to care about them, but you don't need to be all up in their personal life. That's not what you're at work
The
for.
whole child is what's important. Some of these students have been with me since I was a substitute 4 years ago. They see me as a big brother or a father figure, as some of them say. And me, I don't want kids of my own, so all of these kids are literally my children. And in case you're wondering about their parents, most of them follow me on social media and always talk about my videos with their kids. They always tell me that they're so grateful that their kids have someone like me in their life.
And then they're gonna
To my
be
admin,
upset when they
they're
find out
well
you
aware of
touching
my
on them.
social media presence and they love my videos. To me, this
Because even if you're not doing it now, this is a slippery slope for you to do it later in the future. Like, come
is
on.
just another wholesome moment that I'm having with my kids that I was fortunate enough to catch on film. Since I'm a science teacher, one thing that I teach my students about is symbiosis. Symbiosis deals with the relationships between organisms. The type of relationship that I like to foster in my class is mutualism or mutualistic relationship, which means both organisms benefit from the exchange. So when my students have good behavior, complete all their assignments, and do everything that a scholar is supposed to do, I reward them with downtime and just time to just be a kid, be on their phones, play games, gossip, so on and so forth. My students and I work hard and we play harder. I'm fortunate enough to have students that feel safe and comfortable around me, safe to come to me with their problems, their frustrations. They come to me seeking guidance and wisdom, or come to me simply to chill and hang out because they know that they have a safe space to be themselves around me. What I strive to do as an educator is be the teacher I wish I had grown up. I strive to be the teacher that makes my inner child happy, someone that my inner child will be proud of. I want to be the teacher that my students reflect back on 20, 30 years down the line and think, like, dang, that teacher I had in middle school, he was the shit. No further questions, Your Honor.
And with the teacher I had that I told that anecdote in the beginning, I even you know how you have like those like security questions, like okay, who was your name your favorite teacher? I'll always put that teacher's name down. I always thought he was dope. He was cool. Come to find out, this man was a predator. Like, and I'm not saying this for every situation, but literally, it's a slippery slope. Don't trust it. Literally, don't trust it.